I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. My name is Saeed Khan, and we are joined, as usual, with a terrific crew of people coming to you despite the fact that in about 80,000 homes, there's still a lot of power out here in the Detroit area, but we have a resilient panel as always. Joining us is community and labor activist Barb Ingalls. We have public relations specialist David Rudolph, developer and former Michigan GOP co-chair Jeff Sakwa, Detroit Free.
He doesn't want to be called
Detroit...
chair.
Never.
Okay. Detroit Free Press investigative journalist ML Elrick, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel.
All right.
So, the thought that this was going to be a week where new and fresh indictments were going to come down on former President Donald Trump apparently hasn't happened as of yet. There's still a few hours left on a Friday, but it looks like there has been some developments in existing cases under which the president is not only indicted but charged, particularly the documents cage in Mar-a-Lago. And I believe, Allan, we've got a video.
We do. Let me find it here.
Laid out in this superseding indictment, which alleges Trump directed 2 employees at his Palm Beach estate to destroy security camera footage shortly after the Justice Department issued a subpoena to obtain the same video in June of last year. One of those employees, Trump's valet, Walt Nauta, previously was charged along with Trump. The other now, a new character introduced into the story, is Mar-a-Lago property manager Carlos de Oliveira. He was charged in yesterday's follow-up indictment. That indictment describes a moment when the 2 men, Nauta and de Oliveira, walked with a flashlight through a dark tunnel at Mar-a-Lago to scope out a room where boxes of classified documents were being watched by security cameras. A few days later, de Oliveira allegedly told another employee that, quote, the boss wanted security footage from that room deleted.
Now, to be fair, this could have been Melania Trump's Be Best scavenger hunt that they were, mulling around with flashlights. I'm just saying, we haven't heard all the information yet. According to former Trump attorney Ty Cobb, not the Detroit Tiger player, it seems as though in his assessment, Trump is pretty much checkmated on this one. Any thoughts?
It's interesting. You know what my first thought was? I wonder what Trump is paying these people, a maintenance guy, his personal guy, where they're so loyal, or what he's promised them in terms of, don't worry about it, I'm going to be president, you'll get pardoned or whatever. But the charges are piling up. This is like, if you want to go to what Nixon was, in the cover up, here's not more obstruction for trying to delete the video there. You can't ask for anything more. Back in the old days, or if Trump were still president, the Republicans would have told him you got to go. But if today he was still president and all these allegations were coming up, they'd be like, don't worry about it, we're not going to vote you out. So
Well, you see that among Republican leadership. I mean, it's either quiet or you have people like Elise Stefanik, who I believe right now is the House Whip, Majority Whip over there, doubling down, calling this a witch hunt, using the talking points that Trump is saying that this is, I guess the favorite one is quote unquote election interference. That this is messing with his road to the White House, supposedly. David.
This is this is just getting to be mind-boggling of all of these charges that are coming up. It's interesting to see those that are on the campaign trail and how they are sort of handling this and being very mute in many cases. Again, you say talk about back in the day. Candidates would have been all over this to quickly try to dispense of a candidate, that's dealing with all of this much legal trouble that Trump is dealing with. I'm really surprised at that, though, but I shouldn't be, though, because again, we're in this different reality of how Republicans sort of are keeping Trump at with kid gloves, but this is just really a crazy deal to just see these charges pile up.
There's no bottom with these people. There's just I don't know how this is ever going to end. It's just going to get worse and worse because there's no integrity. There's no sense of ethics. It's almost terrifying. I'm enjoying watching them go down, but it's awful to see what's the next horrible thing that we find out.
As the guy who's allegedly on the right, if it's a witch hunt, guess what? They found the witch. I told you guys before the start, I'm appalled that our Michigan delegation were so fast to endorse him with all these things hanging on. When I talk to my friends, if I were to go to heaven and see my dad and say, Dad, you're not going to believe this, Donald Trump was president, go, really? Oh, by the way, he got impeached twice. He's got 3-4 indictments, and P.S. he's ahead by 30 frickin' points. You cannot make this stuff up. And I know some of these people. I know 11 of the 16 electors that were arrested. I hope they all rot in hell, quite frankly. I just can't believe. I can't believe that this person who would sell his wife, his kids to protect. He's a horrible, horrible human. I used to listen. I'm not going to lie. Alan knows. I was all with him in the beginning, but bad is bad, evil is evil. And just because you do a couple of things right doesn't give you a pass for the rest of your life. I mean, even Jim Harbaugh got suspended for 4 games.
Right.
So it's appalling to me. It's appalling that our country is like I agree with David. How can you run against the guy? Run against him. He's in front by 30 points, and your mom? Are you insane? It's crazy. It's crazy. You have an answer.
Yeah. Hey, ML.
So
is there a TV going in your background there?
Yeah, they're watching the Ethan Crumbley.
Okay.
I had to go next door because Xfinity has wiped out our internet.
So I'll just when you're not talking, I may mute you because I can hear the TV back there. But
okay,
go ahead.
That's
go
fine,
ahead and
Alan.
talk.
But this is just another part of the liberal fake news media trying to cover up Vince Foster's role in coordination with Chandra Levy to keep these documents secret. And I'm not going to stand for it. I will not be silent.
All right. Then I will not mute you.
And that's why, ML, you're going white water rafting right after this?
You didn't talk about Obama's guide. Come on.
Well, I mean, there's the other scandal, right? I'm surprised QAnon has not jumped on this. Apparently, the Obama's personal chef was found dead in Cape Cod. So God knows they're not going to go ahead and try to figure out some kind of conspiracy on that. What about
was that the same pizza chef that was keeping people in the basement of that pizzeria in DC?
Comet Pizza. I live 2 blocks from there.
Yeah, and didn't Ron DeSantis and Governor Abbott of Texas send this cook to Martha's Vineyard to die?
It's funny.
I'm trying to keep all this straight.
The Comet Pizza, when I went back shortly after that incident, it was just a little neighborhood pizza place. It's a very hip pizza place. They got ping pong in the back. They had a security guard there. I mean, people were it was just fucking crazy. But I was going to say, it's interesting. You watch MSNBC, CNN, and then you switch over to Fox, and it's such a different world. I mean, last night it's all about, oh my God, superseding indictment for Trump. You go over to Fox, oh my God, Hunter Biden, they fixed that. They got busted on that. The Justice Department covering up all that stuff. So, and we do have a tape on that.
Let's roll the video on that.
Let's see.
Get your reaction to what happened in court today, and I don't know if you share my suspicion. There's no way in my mind that the prosecutor and the defense did not have a firm agreement that there would be no future charges, and I think the judge called them out, and then they knew that they couldn't admit it publicly. That's what I think. Do you agree with that suspicion? Yeah. And
so I do. I think they had a deal. This was a sweetheart deal. This was designed to give Hunter Biden a slap on the wrist, let him get away with 0 jail time. And its most important function was to cover up for the big guy, to cover up from Joe Biden, to say all these matters are done. It's all closed. It's over.
There's an irony when the Republicans actually are upset that misdemeanor gun charges aren't being treated more lightly, but who am I to say? I think you also have another video on Hunter, don't you, Allan?
We just have this real quick.
Okay. Let me go back to the first question of the briefing. I know you said not a lot's changed since yesterday and that it's a personal matter, but from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
So here we go. We have President Biden, who's keeping certainly an arm's length distance from the proceedings, despite the fact that it's happening in his home state of Delaware. How much of this do you think, as far as Fox News and right-wing media goes, how much of this is really about Hunter, and how much of it do you think is trying to keep the deflection away from what is the coverage regarding Trump, which now seems to be just an insurmountable amount of evidence of guilt?
I'll take that one. Number one, of course, but more importantly, there's something there, you guys. There's something there. Fishman was on the podcast last time. He's never had a client ever been charged with IRS that didn't get any jail time. You have a president who screaming about gun control and screaming about taxes. His son broke both of them. It's a big deal. And by the way, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, though I become more one every single day. There may be something there. There may be something there. You can't discount these whistleblowers. I'm sorry. You can't. So there's more there. And, again, it's disgraceful on both sides. And you can't just say one side's okay, the other one isn't. This is an issue. And where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire. It has to be investigated. We'll find. I could argue that they were holding stuff back on Trump the day after the Biden story came out the next day. So I don't know. They could have waited a week to do that to Trump, or done it before, but they held on to the day.
I would say, first of all, I don't know that it's a deflection so much on Trump, although it is somewhat of a deflection of Trump. But it's also trying to get so hard to Biden, trying to taint Biden here. But what Jeff is saying, I mean, to me, it's puzzling. I've listened to some of the testimony of the IRS whistleblowers, and usually, I don't think they have a political agenda, and they are insisting that the U.S. attorney David Weiss, who's a Trump appointee, was hamstrung by the Justice Department or other people, and that that he couldn't do what he wanted. Now, David Weiss insists that's not the case. Merrick Garland insists that's not the case, and I don't know if it's something in between, or if the IRS people were interpreting stuff that they wanted. I mean, it's not unusual, but having covered federal law enforcement for decades, it's not unusual for agents to want more charges and it's not unusual for the U.S. Attorney's Office to pull back a little bit and say, no, we're going to go for what we can get. I can tell you, covering the Anthrax case at the Post for 4 years, there was a head of the FBI in the Washington field office, the head of that investigation. He went with the head of the field office into the U.S. Attorney's Office and said, I want you to indict Stephen Hatfield. There's enough evidence. And they said, no, we're not clear on that. And he said, you know what, fuck you. He goes, I'm going to deputize myself as a prosecutor and I'll charge him. And they said, you know what, get the fuck out of our office. It ended up that Stephen Hatfield was not the guy. But so I don't know. I don't know if it's a matter of IRS agents saying we wanted more, we wanted tougher, and the U.S. attorney was trying to be more moderate, or they've got something there. I don't know.
Ellen, you know what double jeopardy is? Everybody in this podcast knows what double jeopardy is. They were trying to. There's more investigations going on. They tried to clean it out, and they got caught. It's very.
Well, I don't know, but for the fact is that it may just be incompetence on the part of Hunter Biden's attorneys who did not specify, and they just assumed that everything was taken care of, because the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Justice Department had said all along, we have, I think in the press release said there's an ongoing investigation. So how can you possibly have, be protected from everything unless you have, if you have immunity where you're testifying and they agree, okay, give us all you got. But it didn't seem that way. And so I almost think it was incompetence on the part of Hunter Biden's attorneys, but I could be wrong. And I'm not as conspiratorial as Ted Cruz or, some of the other folks, but I don't know.
Stay tuned.
ML, did you want to come in? Yeah.
Yes. So to Allan's point that it's very common for case agents to want more charges. I mean, I think at the county level, at the federal level, wherever you go, the people who work the case want them charged to the max, and the prosecutors want to narrow it down to what do we think we can get a conviction on. Let's make it a slam dunk for us. And so a lot of stuff falls by the wayside. What is extraordinary, though, is those agents still on the job coming forward and saying, hey, somebody tried to throttle this investigation. And so we really have to listen to them. Mm-hmm. But the biggest problem, this is a problem for the American people right now, is everybody's kids suck. Jared, Ivanka, the two clones they're running around who at the university, they're idiots. Hunter Biden, God bless him with fighting with addiction, but what a piece of shit this guy is, man. I don't even think his art's any good. But all this stuff he's doing, and whether his dad was involved or not, you keep dragging your dad into these things. I'm mentioning my dad. Whether Biden was in the room or not, that's a problem. And I think what Biden needs to do, and I don't think he'll ever do it, is to have a press conference, and he needs to sit behind that desk, the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, with a chart and a pointer and say, here's what my son did. Here's what I knew about. You can all get mad about it, but this is it. And no matter who comes forward, no matter what evidence is presented, it's never going to get any worse than this, because what's going to end up happening is this is going to be the Chinese water torture for this guy. It's going to be drip, drip, drip. It's going to hit Hillary's server, Hillary's emails. And the difference is Americans are bothered by that. The people who support Trump, you could find out that he did shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, and they're still going to vote for him because he was right. But it's the middle that Biden is going to lose if this stuff doesn't get tamped down. And the right is expert at just hammering and hammering and hammering on this stuff, and it's not going to go away.
I think he disown him like he did his grandchild. Just me.
I think it's interesting, like you say, you watch Fox and it's Hunter Biden 24/7. How did the Justice Department cover this up? Blah, blah, blah. You watch MSNBC and it's like superseding indictment and more indictments to come for Trump. It's really a battle. I mean, it's so crazy. I mean, that the TV now, all the cable news networks, I mean, it's so you pick what you want to echo your beliefs or what you want. And, certainly if you watch MSNBC or CNN, it's going to be Trump, 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 indictment. And Fox is just endless. They're just sit around in groups and talking about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden must have taken money. And here's the thing they talk about, last night they were talking about Joe Biden, that there's an allegation made of him taking bribes and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's no evidence of that. There is an allegation made, like anyone can make allegations. And the thing is, those allegations were there before Biden came into office. That meant that William Barr and Trump And you could imagine Trump says Trump knows about that. Well, the FBI's, the Justice Department can order the FBI. We want this. We want you to do this. We want you to look into this. They haven't found anything. It's not to say, because look, the January 6th hearing, I don't think we would have these investigations. I'm not sure we would have these investigations into Trump, except for the fact it was such a thorough job on January 6th. The Justice Department and FBI had no choice.
Well, so the president has 2 surviving sons. Which do you think he's going to throw under the bus first, Hunter or Commander? Because they're both proving to be quite scandalous for him. So,
Yes.
I don't know, just something for you to think about.
Trouble,
Well, one of the things that the left is also, or part of the left is hitting Biden about is his age and about his mental faculties. And just a couple days ago, we had an incident happening at the Senate with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who seemingly in the middle of a press conference froze and had to be escorted away from the podium back to his office. Apparently, just a few days ago, he face planted by falling on the steps. Notwithstanding the legitimacy of the medical episode, the fact that it seems as though coverage about age and mental acuity and physical conditions is becoming more and more fair game in the media. First of all, is that fair game to have it be fair game? And second of all, what about the whole idea of the imbalance of coverage? I mean, we saw that on the right, they just, anytime Biden has a Chevy Chase moment going up and down the stairs of Air Force One. For those of you who don't know, that's Saturday Night Live, Gerald Ford, back in the 70s. Anyways, what do you think about the coverage, and what do you think about the culture of ageism being up?
You missed one with Dianne Feinstein yesterday. Did you catch that one?
That's right. That's right. There's also the one with Dianne Feinstein having a moment where her lucidity was really questionable in a committee hearing.
I wish for Mitch McConnell the same level of care that he wishes for us, or work for us. Ageism is a problem, and so are really old people that need to step down. I think McConnell's day was done, but what he does is he obeys the people in charge of the right. He does what they say, and he can fall down a whole flight of stairs as far as I'm concerned, and so can Feinstein. She's holding everything back.
I thought.
By
it
the
was
way, just to mention, a very, very happy birthday to a very lucid Norman Lear, who turned 101 today. So go Norman!
Wow! I mean, it's interesting. With McConnell, you're not hearing like, what the hell is, I mean, it was like he was standing there and like suddenly all the people around him are like, hey, are you done? Like, and they just kind of, come on, Grandpa, let's get back to the home. And it's trying to be brushed up. But I agree. I agree with Barb that ageism is a problem that we have to be careful about. But at the same time, people need to step down. I mean, we see, and ML knows this from covering the federal court. I mean, we have had a history of judges well into their 90s. And I, from the time I covered the federal court for the Detroit News in '88, there were 2 judges on the bench who were in their 90s. One was really hard of hearing. And, we had Avon Cohn, who was sharp as they come, but he was on the bench till 96 or somewhere around there. And, one of the brightest people on that bench for decades. But
there was coverage yesterday. I go back and forth because I swear I live in 2 different countries, but they talk about, you have to have a minimum age to have these jobs. Why not a maximum age? That's the answer. So you're too young, you don't know anything, and you're too old, you can't remember what you had for lunch.
Yeah, I think we have to be very careful about the ageism issue. But I'm actually surprised that we haven't heard from AARP on this matter.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, that's okay, Dave. I mean, I haven't gotten my latest tote bag either, so I think that they're kind of lagging behind on stuff. But
I refuse.
ML.
I refuse. I throw it away. I refuse to.
I want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I really like
I really like Chuck Grassley's take on it when he said, like, well, if Mitch had more experience, he would have finished that sentence. He's still getting broken in there.
Yeah, maybe Mitch was simply taking the fifth. One time I was flying back from DCML and Grassley was sitting right behind me, and I said, Senator, are you going to make any statement regarding the loss of religious freedom in India? And he turns to me and says, God bless you. I'm like, wow, talk about an ironic pre-programmed answer. So you've got that.
Who was flying that plane? Charles Lindbergh?
It's interesting. Trump is, how old is he? 76, 77 or something?
78, I think.
Is it? But age is not, when you look at the level of energy between him and Biden, there is a distinction there. Or Bernie Sanders, really. These guys, to me, it's amazing at that age. I couldn't do that job now. And at that age, that these guys still have the energy to travel around the world and have the stamina is just phenomenal, really.
And that job really ages you.
Yeah.
You look at pictures of Barack Obama in the beginning, and he was very vital, and he had black hair, and his hair was white at the end. I think even somebody that has a relatively easy time in the Oval Office, and we don't know what color Donald Trump's hair is. So
orange.
Well, Alan, what takes the years off with travel is flying coach, which is something none of these people are doing.
Yeah.
So if
I private his whole life, that's the key. He never had to fly coach.
Yeah, if I was rolling like that, I could. Look at Kissinger. Kissinger is still going to Beijing. Yeah. So he's
why
doing
won't
that.
that man die? Honest to God.
Yeah, he's evil. He's an evil.
He is so evil.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember David Rockefeller. I think he died at 102, and he'd had 3 heart transplants.
Wow.
You're telling me that he was able to just miraculously get up on the list, and they always seem to be able to find one for him and for nobody else. Given his age and risk factors, they always seem to find a heart. Now, I think part of that could have been.
Heart, does he? Literally,
well, I was thinking about
Cheney has a heart anymore.
No, the DeVos's father got one, but he got it in England. So maybe England. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about the scene from Temple of Doom where Mola Ram just reaches in and grabs a heart for you. He might have been an aide for David Rockefeller. Well, one of the people who seems to have maybe found a heart, and again, we can debate this, is Rudy Giuliani, who apparently has now admitted to have made defamatory statements, this in light of a defamation lawsuit that was filed against him by 2 election workers in the state of Georgia, Ruby Freeman and Wandrea Shea Moss, mother and daughter respectively, who from all accounts it seems as though the kind of haranguement that came about from the defamatory statements that Giuliani now admits to have made really wrecked their lives, put them in danger, facing death threats to the point that they had to move. What's going on with Rudy, and is it really going to save him? Because apparently he's also claiming at the same time that the defamatory statements were protected speech under the First Amendment, which I didn't think
bullshit.
Lies were protected. Yeah,
that's from being in the media all that time. You can't intentionally make defamatory statements, and particularly if we're not a public figure. These two people were not public figures. He intentionally made those. The two have a perfect case against him, and for him to say that is total bullshit. It's contrary to the laws, as far as I can understand. If they were to say some shit about Rudy, he's a public figure, but even so, he would have some standing if it was intentional. Basically, when we get sued for libel, we got sued for, Deadline Detroit got sued because some tennis coach was doing a Zig Heil at a school board meeting in Birmingham, and we had a report and everything. Factually reported he sued 5 news outlets and lost in summary judgment out in Oakland County. The judge was too lazy to give legal fees for that, but the lawyer should have been sanctioned for just doing that. But it's Rudy knows better, but he's, maybe he doesn't anymore. I mean, the guy has such a drop from being, the 9/11 hero and the mayor and the U.S. attorney fighting the mob and all that shit. And now he's just he's scum, really. I mean, there's no other word for him. He's ruined these people's lives, really.
In a defamation lawsuit, I mean, you have to actually prove usually that the statements were defamatory. That's been done. He's admitted to that. So now basically all you need to do is go to damages. But he's also claiming that he shouldn't be on the hook for all the damages because some of the harm that they may have incurred could have come from the actions of other people. I mean, this seems to be something that if you were a first-year law student and you put down on an exam, you'd probably get bounced out. Doesn't seem to be holding much water. I know we don't have any lawyers on the team today, but
one time we don't.
The one time we don't. It's a Shonda. So we mentioned Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy floating the idea of Biden impeachment proceedings. And I'll ask the question again, how much of that is because there's actually something there? How much of it is to create a distraction from what's befalling Trump? The idea that even the Department of Homeland Security Secretary under Biden, there are threats to go ahead and have him impeached, which the last time I checked, I thought it had to be for high crimes and misdemeanors. And I don't see any of those applying here. Anyone?
I'll take it. Yeah. You had Newt Gingrich was all over the news yesterday saying, don't do it, mainly because he doesn't want the vice president becoming president, nor is anybody else probably. But it's there was a movement when Obama was president to impeach him. It's just unfortunately we're hate versus hate. Although Trump deserved what he got, and it's the party's gone. I mean, it's headline news every day, and I think the people, when there was a poll, I believe it was on Fox on Sunday, 47% of Democrats said they would vote for a third party, and 47% of Republicans would vote for a third party. This is why they're sick of each other. But that's my comment.
You almost remember you must remember once upon a time when you were asked the question, how many presidents have been impeached? You could name just one, and that was Andrew Johnson. I mean, you always had that zinger that Nixon technically was not impeached. Now it seems as though the I word is everywhere.
Yeah,
David.
Yeah, I'd say this is just another distraction. I mean, between that and you throw Hunter Biden, and it's just another thing to just try to be a distraction for as a counter to what's going on with Trump, and to find something that the Biden administration constantly defending these various things, and that's all that is all about. To me, there's nothing there for even warranted for the speaker to even say that.
Well,
all right.
It seems as though,
Saeed?
I mean, yeah.
I was going to say, when we get a little segue here, these two guys, David Rudolph and Jeff Sakwa, have something to talk about their little business ventures.
Given this would be a perfect time to go ahead and talk about that. So, David, Jeff, talk about the rejuvenation of Corktown.
All right.
David can go first.
But yeah, David's got
why do you have to
in Livernois.
Why do you have to bring Jew into it to me?
The rejuvenation, did it ever go down?
Well, David, go ahead. You had Kuzos today.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're here over on Livernois Avenue of Fashion. They call it the big dog of the area. Kuzos Chicken and Waffles is reopened. They've been closed for about 7 months for some deep cleaning, some reorganization going down, refreshing furnishings and all that kind of stuff. So if you missed that wonderful sweet waffle and chicken, and Kuzos is back on the block again, and that's kind of where I'm sitting outside watching people drive up and roll themselves out here.
All right. Same owner as before, or new owner?
Over, yeah, Ron Bartel. You know, he's
Okay.
the Bartels are like
We need a
mayor of.
we need a field trip. We need to like actually do this remotely, Alan.
Right,
We're
live.
sitting around
With
where
plates
David,
of
yeah.
chicken and waffles in front of us.
There you go. And
Jeff,
what do you got for us?
A couple weeks away from the opening of the Godfrey Hotel, ground up construction. We were blessed to get financing during COVID. We came in a little bit over budget, not surprising, but the really good news, really good news is that hotels in Detroit, the rates are way up everywhere. They're filled up all the time. The other night, the Beyonce concert, you couldn't get a room down there because people evidently aren't drinking and driving home, thank God. And just Corktown is on fire, and fire's going to keep burning when not get over Canada, but when the train station opens up over there. And the food's not going to start for about a month, 4 to 6 weeks, because we know if you go there the first time, you don't like it, you're never coming back. And the people that are managing the food are the people from Phoenicia and Birmingham. It'll be like an all-American type menu, and weddings and things have been booked. There's a rooftop bar restaurant with the ceiling opens and closes, and stop by, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It came out unbelievable.
And that's right on Michigan near Trumbull.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Do we get a VIP invitation before you open?
Right. Friends and family invite for the dinner. Oh, he's going blank now.
No,
I guess that's a no.
Of course.
All right. Okay.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. By the way, this Sunday, I think in Eastern Market, for if anybody's interested, there's the Taco Showdown. So that's also happening in the face. By the way, did anyone go to the Beyonce concert? I'm asking this quasi rhetorically.
Nope.
No one. ML. Well, apparently, Barb, there were tickets available on the day of the concert for like $210, which is less than face value for the Eagles. So so there is that possibility.
The Eagles 99th farewell tour. Yeah.
ML.
Yeah, and by the way, RIP to Randy Meisner, one of the founding members of the Eagles. ML.
I'm having a garage sale this weekend. I just want to get in on the action. So if you want to come by, and buy some of my old stilettos, it's East Outer Drive and Mac. Come on by. Everything's priced to move.
So I would recommend people go to the garage sale, go get some food, either at Taco Showdown or go to Kuzo's. You can make a whole freaking day of this. So fear not. And the weather should be really nice and mild. Well, let's take this out of the country for a little bit and look at what's happening in other parts of the world. The Israeli Knesset this week voted to remove from the Israeli Supreme Court certain judicial review powers, particularly the court's ability to use the reasonableness standard to then go ahead and vote down various legislation that the Knesset was passing. This is seen as a victory not only for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but also for his right-wing coalition. There have been, for several consecutive weeks, demonstrations in Tel Aviv and elsewhere in Israel from people protesting this, but nonetheless, this has now passed. Those who are observing it are concerned that this is one of the most anti-democratic moves to happen in a country that's only 75 years old, and that it removes checks and balances on the Knesset. The consequences are speculated to be more issues that might affect the Palestinian population, particularly when it comes to land, and also when it comes to the assertion of settler rights relative to the more secular segment of the Israeli population. What's going on in the Middle East? Alan.
Well, I think, first of all, I mean, it's going to be interesting because there's a potential showdown here where up until now, the Supreme Court has been able to swat down anything that is just crazy in the government. They can remove somebody. They can rule that a cabinet position is illegal or whatever. So there are people who have now appealed to the Supreme Court to rule that this legislation is not proper and it's illegal. So we'll see the showdown in that. In the meantime, the damage to Israel is significant. You have a lot of the reserve people in the Air Force who are refusing to report. There was an article yesterday on Haaretz, the Israeli publication, saying there are hordes of Israelis looking for passports in alternative countries to move to. They want to leave. And there's going to be a drain of a lot of, doctors and scientists and IT tech people. The guy has really created a danger. It's interesting. The former head of the Mossad was interviewed on radio, and he was comparing this government, people in the cabinet, to the KKK. He was saying, if this were another country, it would be called anti-Semitic. What's going on here? All the crap that they're doing. And there was a really interesting thing. He was interviewed, and he was asked about he worked for Netanyahu at one point, and he told Netanyahu, he says, you know what? The Gaza is the world. This sort of really hit me. He says the Gaza is the world's biggest open-air prison in the world. And they said, well, what did Netanyahu say? And he goes, nothing. So Netanyahu's a danger to, look, in the end, I always say militarily, if the issue's militarily, Israel would have won a long time ago, but it's not the path. And the same thing with Hamas. They can do whatever, but the path is going to be negotiated peace. And until we get there, right now, Netanyahu's not going to be the guy. And he's beholden, like McCarthy is, to the crazies. Netanyahu is beholden to the crazies there. So,
to add a little bit to that locally, or people are starting not to give money to Federation. They want to withhold their money.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
Yeah, the American Jews are like, look, the Israeli Jews some of them are saying, fuck Israel. This is bullshit. This isn't the Israel that we, and so you have American Jews are even having a harder time struggling with that.
You're going to make your gift this year? Alan, you're going to give your gift this year?
Well, there was also the incident last week with Washington State Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who was called out for saying that Israel was a racist state. There was a lot of pushback from both on a bipartisan level and as well as from organizations. But it seems as though this week, when the Mossad chief made a similar allusion of calling it a KKK state, it seems as though this is becoming more and more frequent, and can't necessarily be avoided or neglected when it comes to the rhetoric. But there's also this issue about Netanyahu facing corruption charges right now, and is it possible that the removal of these review powers by the Supreme Court could then immunize him from prosecution?
That's the allegation there, that he's trying to clear the way for that. And, Trump is watching that. Trump has already sort of laid out his game plan, saying, he's going to make the FBI a cabinet position where that the FBI director will have to report to him. He'll have his own secret police. Same thing with the Justice Department. And that's what's happening in Israel, where he's going to try to derail, Netanyahu's going to try to derail any criminal charges against him and say null and void.
So the rumor that Trump might move the FBI call center to Bangalore, India, is also not completely unfounded. Just okay. ML, you were saying that people in the background were watching the Ethan Crumbley hearing right now in Oakland County. He is undergoing the Miller hearing to see whether or not he's eligible for life without the possibility of parole. Today is day 2. The defense is bringing up their witnesses. Yesterday, it seems as though the testimony that was provided and the evidence provided by the prosecution was graphic, was chilling, was very difficult and traumatic for the victim and the victim's families, many of whom were in the courtroom or in an adjacent courtroom. Any idea where you think the judge is heading with this?
No idea. I'm afraid I have not been following it as closely as our reporters who are doing up to the minute coverage. So if you go to freep.com, you can keep up with that. But this is a kid who is clearly troubled. But to suggest that someone should never, ever, ever have a chance to get out of prison is a pretty heavy thing. And so I think there's a lot of very big issues before the court right now. And the challenge will always be to rise above the emotion, because I talked to our reporter who's in the courtroom, Gina Damron, and I sent her messages saying, I hope you're okay, because I want to sit and watch that stuff. I would not want to see video of children dying in a hallway while some kid just walks to the next victim. I don't know how the families can stand to be there. I guess you want to see your loved one right up to the end, but I'm just grateful to never ever not even have a chance of being in that courtroom. Although my kids were in East Lansing when that guy was on campus, so I think anybody who thinks that there is no chance of courtroom like that, we should probably all think real hard about that.
Yep. Allan.
I think an appropriate sentence would be life with the possibility of parole somewhere way down the line. But I think one of the things we have to, he was 15 at the time of the shooting. And one of the things, we have to realize that anyone who's involved in these mass killings normally has some serious mental health issues. And that being said, the insanity defense is not applicable here, or in most other cases, it's really highly unusual. His parents, they showed yesterday, his parents took him to the gun range about 3 days before the shooting. Here's a kid who has told the parents he's having mental health issues, that he's delusional, and instead they buy him a gun and take him to the shooting range. They've been in, I think it'll be 2 years now in November that they've been in prison. And I think we've never seen such a level, well, at least in court, charging such a level of irresponsibility there. But I think, look, the kid's not going to get the death penalty. That would be unheard of for a teenager to get. In Michigan, we don't have it except on a federal level if you go to federal charges. But I think it's life. You can't give that guy anything short of life in prison. And then the question is 30, 40, whatever, 30 years from now that, he'd be considered, and that would be victims would testify in court and give their view on it as well. And I think that might be the best way. That's just I ain't no judge.
I can see that. I can see that being the case. Well, someone else who's facing a certain kind of punitive measure is, as Jeff mentioned before, University of Michigan football coach Jim Harbaugh, facing a 4-game suspension for recruiting violations. It seems as though he's going to have to sit out of the Big House during the East Carolina State game. I think the only one from Big Ten games that he'll miss is the Rutgers game. Is this a fair enough punishment? Although I know that we have some Michigan State fans here who might go ahead and consider these to be aggravating circumstances.
Full disclosure, I'm a Sparty, but I do not hate Wolverines any way, shape, or form. It's my second favorite team. However, this guy's looking for a job every year. He's anything but loyal. Whatever rules he broke, I just can't wait for that board to give him a raise. Breaking the rules and give him a raise, because, again, sports has its own rules. I went to a meeting at Tom Izzo's house Tuesday talking about NIL, and we're getting off track here. They're literally, parents are charging coaches to talk to their kid. You want to talk to my kid, it's $1,000. It's the Wild West out there.
Wow.
Working on it. But getting back, so, Harbaugh, everybody says that I don't know him. Coach Bellamy is a personal friend of mine. I got him a job at West Bloomfield. Harbaugh, some people think he's on the spectrum. He's a different guy. Rules are the rules. And, he's probably got some documents in his basement that belong to Trump or something. I don't know. Whatever the NCAA finds, they're their own little worst enemy.
Yeah.
I heard he might be coaching Tom Brady on how to date Irina Shayk, but again, that's just conjecture. So welcome back, David.
Thank you.
As a person that doesn't follow sports at all, I find this just completely disgusting that there is any thought that that you don't get punished for this kind of behavior just because of a sports team. I know how much money goes into it. I know that people that send their kids to the Big Ten schools are not paying for their education; they're paying for the sports department. That's
not true. The sports department raises all their own money at Michigan and Michigan State, and it's 100% nothing to do with their budget.
That must be why they can't afford to pay their the geo assistant professors there. There's never enough money for anything except for the sports department. I know people whose kids go to these schools, and I'll never get it. But, and he should obey the law like everybody else.
And the tuition goes up.
And the tuition goes up.
Tuition. What is tuition at Wayne State now? So
I don't know. I don't pay tuition. I think you can still get through a year for about $10,000. It's still a really good deal.
And Michigan's probably got to be 40. And Mike, what's the MU? What does it cost for tuition?
I think Michigan State's about $500 a credit. I'll tell you very soon because I'll be getting another tuition bill. But that doesn't cover cost to live there. The dorms now are like $12,500 for a year, and they're pretty spectacular. But I didn't send my kid on a cruise. I wanted to go to college. So I don't know why I'm paying all that money for them to be on the damn. I guess it's not necessarily a love boat, but so here's my feeling about Harbaugh. I was a union steward at the Free Press for many years, and I went into a disciplinary hearing where a very talented person was going to lose their job. And I sat for this malarkey, and at the end, the guy who was deciding that he was going to dismiss this person said, "You know what? I don't care what the circumstances are. We always do the right thing." Well, we found out years later he was banging a subordinate and cheating on his wife who also worked at the paper, and lying to his kid and all this other stuff. That's Harbaugh. We always do the right thing. Unless I'm doing it, then I do whatever the hell I want, and everybody else can eat chain. To see up there and talk about that fracas in the tunnel at the University of Michigan, which was almost entirely the University of Michigan's fault, and say that we do things the right way and we need to have things fully investigated, and we need this prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That was said by a guy who was covering up a crime committed by one of his players who's lying to investigators. That's the guy who wants to see everybody face the full extent of the law. Jim Harbaugh, you can kiss my pink ass because you're the biggest fraud ever, and I don't care how good your program's going. You want to say you're the Harvard of the West? I'm not that big a fan of Harvard either, but if you say you're the best, at least try and pretend you act like the best, because I'll tell you what, I don't know what you believe, and I don't care if you believe anything. If there is a God, he's not wearing a blue hat with a yellow M on it, or maybe it's maize. I don't know. You're not God, Jim Harbaugh. You're just a man, and I would say not a particularly good one.
Emma, would you agree that if his record was 5-7, they would have fired him?
Sure. Right.
There was a point where Jim Harbaugh was taking guys on the program who were not complying with the rules and throwing them off.
Yeah.
They were losing back then, and everybody in Ann Arbor wanted to run him out of town on a rail. So, I'm a Spartan, so take it for what it's worth, but I'm someone who believes in the truth more than anything else. And Jim Harbaugh, my buddy, you don't believe in the truth. Mel Tucker, on the other hand, who people want to crucify because he didn't have a good season, when his guys were under suspension, he suspended them, and he came down on them harder than anybody else. And he said, you know why? Because we do things the right way here. Now, time will tell whether that's true. But what I hear coming out of Mel Tucker's mouth and what I hear coming out of Jim Harbaugh's mouth, I'm proud Mel Tucker's our coach. You can keep Jim Harbaugh.
When I was at the Detroit News, we used to have George Bullard, who was at the time the Metro editor. He was a Spartan, so he would always he would change something in a story to say, and the University of Michigan, the Harvard of Washtenaw County.
So, by the way, Allan, to answer your question, it's about $15,000 a year for tuition at Wayne State. In-state, 30 for out-of-state.
Wow.
U of M is about 17 in-state, 53 out-of-state.
Wow.
So that's why they love them from out-of-state.
Oh, ML, you're. Excuse me, Celine, you're wrong on both. So you got to add in everything. It's about $26,000 to $28,000 at both schools. Both schools this year have accepted their highest amount of incoming in their freshman class because they want the frickin' money. Okay. And Michigan and Michigan State, no matter what happens, will have overflooding of people trying to get in, and they'll never have a problem. But now they're putting in, maybe ML's kids are having an issue with this. They're cramming way too many kids into the dorm because they want the money, and they're forcing them to stay there for 2 years. I'm sure ML's very aware of all that. Money, money, money.
Yep.
I stand corrected on that.
Because
So before
they lost so much money during COVID, they're trying to make it up.
Yeah. So before we go to our last segment, yeah, David.
I just want to jump in and co-sign everything that my fellow Spartan ML said. You know, go green. As a former MSU football player, I know my connectivity is going out. So whatever Harbaugh got, they should have gave him double.
Looks like we have 4 Spartans here on the panel today.
I know, it gives minorities like me a whole new twist on things. So
Trump Harbaugh 24.
I'm not that much of a dyed-in-the-wool Wolverine fan. I'm Manchester United. But before we go to our very last segment, I do want to go ahead and talk about the passing of I think really a sort of a cultural icon, and that is Irish singer artist Sinead O'Connor, who 2 days ago passed away at the age of 56 in London. Police initially are saying that there doesn't appear to be any suspicious circumstances around her death, but she will be, I think, undergoing an autopsy nonetheless, per British regulation. Reflections on Sinead O'Connor, if you were a fan or anything. Barb, yes.
Yeah, one of the most stunning shows I ever saw in my life was Sinead at the Fox Theater. It was right after they renovated it. And she stood in that stage by herself, barefoot, singing. There was a band, but they stayed way back, and it was virtually a cappella, and it was truly one of the most stunning shows I've ever seen.
Wow.
She was a truth teller, and it hurt her a lot of times. But I think it's a sad thing that woman is gone. She was so talented, and just, I don't know. It still hurts to think of it.
I saw her in '88 at St. Andrews off the first album, and she had Andy and Mike from the Smiths recently broken up, and she did a cover version of the Smiths song off their first album, "The Hand That Rocks the Cradle." Yeah. It was hypnotic. She was just amazing. ML, any thoughts about her?
Yeah, I mean, she's fantastic, and The Lion and the Cobra was one of my favorite albums from the 80s, and she was so ahead of her time that she did a duet with MC Light, which was really two pioneers coming together to create some great music. And the thing about her, sometimes when you're ahead of your time, the way you present yourself is what brings you down. But she was talking about abuse of children and abuse of people by the powerful. She was politically ahead of her time as much as she was ahead of her time musically. The way she rolled it out, probably not as graceful as it could have been, and she paid a tremendous price for that. But what a great artist, terrific. I never got the privilege of seeing her in person, but a big admirer of her music, and very sorry for the very difficult life she lived. She lost a son to suicide, and lived a fairly simple life in a small village in Ireland for the last part of her life. I don't know whether she found some peace. I hope she's found it now. But the Lion and the Cobra has been in heavy rotation, and we're going to be playing Jerusalem this Tuesday on ML Soul of Detroit in our New Wave Music segment. Because it's great. And it was a tough call because I thought maybe we'd play Lay Your Hands on Me with MC Light because I love that one. But Jerusalem's just so good. And just very small side note here, the first single they tried to roll out from that album was Troy, which if you've ever listened to Troy, it's a very different kind of song. It's almost orchestral. It's sort of meandering, and it's from an unknown artist. What A&R man thought, here's somebody no one's ever heard of. It's a bald Irish chick, and she's playing a song that you have to listen to for 3 or 4 minutes to really dig it. It's amazing that she made it, but I think in the end, when you've got that much talent, nobody can keep you down.
I remember the first time I heard Mandinka, I mean, it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, wow, what a force. So
that was the second single. They got that one right.
Yeah, they got that one right.
I want to mention one thing. I can't remember. It's for Otani yesterday. California Angel, Los Angeles Angels now pitched a 1-hitter in the first game and then had 2 home runs in the second game. I mean, that guy. I mean, to pitch a 1-hitter. I mean, maybe it's not so hard against the Tigers, but but still pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
We should be clear, not a suspect in Sinead's death. If you're wondering how that
yes,
came,
right,
yeah, that's,
right.
No.
Yes. Not at all. Well, 5 years ago, she actually converted to Islam in Dublin. I know the imam who presided over that, and apparently he was keeping in touch with her and said that she, to point apropos to what you're asking, ML, had found some peace. Her son's death last year, though, did really cause a bit of a rupture. But again, right now it seems as though, and it seems as though right now, at least, it's not a suspicious circumstance. I mean, it looks like she died of a broken heart, to put it. But rest in peace. Okay, before we go to our commercial, I think we have a short kind of comic relief video here.
Yes, we do.
Allan.
Ready?
That you're wearing a shirt. Is everything okay?
Fucking kidding me?
Of all the things you can win an Oscar for, how surprised are you that you won one for acting?
All right. And now the commercial.
All right.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Elrick Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email textinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
All right. We are ready.
Now we are
downtown Detroit. Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
all right. That great segment where we can go around the horn and see who's been the biggest schmuck of the week. David, we'll start with you.
Oh, this one was real easy for me this week. That would be Carly Russell, the woman down in Alabama who decided that she was going to fictitiously claim that she was helping or searching or seeing a toddler on the road and got kidnapped. Was taken on a journey for a couple of days and ate cheese crackers, and then miraculously showed up again, and then we find out that it's all a hoax. It kind of smelled a little funky in the beginning, but this is one of those things where I always say, like, it's unfortunate because the next time you have somebody truly a situation like that, people go back to thinking about the hoaxes and then maybe don't move as swift and diligently as they should when you hear these sort of things, especially when celebrities jump on board and really give it power. So she gets my schmuck of the week.
All right. Just to clarify, so that there's no improper impugning here, the cheese crackers were not a hoax. So yeah, I don't want them to be defamed or disparaged. All right, Jeff, who's your schmuck?
I'm gonna
That was
go.
a good one, by the way, David.
Oh, do you say me?
Yeah.
All of us for doing the show. No, I'm kidding. I'm going Hunter Biden walking in, pleading not guilty. I mean, plead guilty and walking out not guilty in a matter of hours. So that's me.
All right, succinct as it is. Barb.
Oh, it's hard to choose these days, but I'm going to go with the Michigan GOP fake electors. The clown car just never seems to end, and these people they're constantly getting caught. They're not sorry. They're incompetent. They're not smart, and they're going to jail. I'm happy to see it, but it's hard to witness in our beautiful state.
Well, I'm here to tell you, there's a pool party that all of them are going to be at this weekend. If you want to attend, it's on Facebook. I hope that it's a fundraiser. I hope that Nestle will have somebody attending. We'll see what. Or maybe there'll be a drowning or two. Who knows? I don't know.
ML, who's your schmuck?
Well, I was going to say Harbaugh, but I don't know what more I can say about Jim Harbaugh. But yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Harbaugh.
Okay, all right. You don't have to provide the whole soliloquy again. We got it loud and clear.
Oh, I got more, but we're running long, so I'm going to keep it short.
Okay, Allan, who's your schmuck?
I got a couple. Actually, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's destroying the country, and he's created this horrible cabinet that's just going to lead to more violence there in the Middle East. And the other one is Carlos de Oliveira, the maintenance guy for Trump, who's now been indicted. It's amazing the loyalty. I'm not sure what they're thinking, and unless we find out, the maintenance guy is making $100,000 a year, and they don't want to lose their job, or he's promised them something, or he's just scared. I don't understand the loyalty. None of the other guys, Meadows, there's no loyalty there. None of those guys are going to go to prison for Trump at the higher level. These guys are apparently like, yeah, he's our boss. So,
or they're going to be
deported.
Yeah. They can get jobs at White Castle for $15 an hour on Woodward near the Boulevard.
Is it really $15 an hour there?
Yeah, it's $15 an hour. Yeah, they were out front. Right in the beginning of the pandemic, they jumped right into it, and they were one of the first to really promote $15 an hour.
But it should pay.
Is there? Have they opened up a dispensary around there by any chance? Because that would be a great
perfect.
combo.
Maybe they could combine White Castle with the dispensary.
Yeah,
and then an area where you can park and get high, and then just keep ordering.
Yeah, they're not serving
the White Room.
They're not serving the pangolin burgers anymore, though. They stopped that pandemic.
All right. Well, my schmuck of the week is Republican Congressman from Wisconsin, Derek Van Orden, who apparently cursed out a group of 16 and 17-year-old Senate pages in the Capitol Rotunda early Thursday morning. He called them, quote, jackasses and, quote, pieces of shit, and told them that he didn't, quote, give a fuck who you are. The pages assist Senate operations, and when the Senate works late, as it was Wednesday night working on the National Defense Authorization Act amendments, pages generally use the rotunda to just kind of kick back, rest. By the way, today is the last day of the term, and so Congress people like Mr. Van Orden and senators are all coming home. Congress will not be back in session until after Labor Day. So these pages are essentially getting done with their internships, taking selfies, and having a bit of fun in the rotunda. Nothing that would have been anything close to what Van Orden's compatriots were doing on January the 6th in said rotunda. But the fact that he decided to unleash fury on these pages, underage as they were, makes him my schmuck of the week. The other one, just as an honorable mention, Kylie Jenner, who now is finally confirming that she had breast augmentation surgery and regretting that she had it done after years of denial. And then also honorable mention, the Houston Independent School District, which is eliminating librarians and turning some libraries into discipline centers on 28 campuses, calling them team centers for the kids with behavioral issues. And then they'll determine the remaining 57 school libraries on a case-by-case basis whether to keep them intact. Schmuckery of the highest order in
What did they
Texas
just watch The
again.
Breakfast Club or something?
You know, don't you grab the bull by the horns, you know, as but let's face it, ML. I mean, we got to realize that karma has a funny way of working out. The same guy, Paul Gleason, who played the counselor in that, also apparently got sodomized when he was put in a gorilla outfit in Trading Places. So, you know, even Hollywood provides a sense of balance and justice.
Did you notice that the wise custodian at the end of the movie, they show him as one of the leading men of his class when he graduated from that high school? It's one of those little Easter eggs at the end of it.
Man of the Year, that's right. And he was the eyes and ears of these corridors, my friend. Absolutely.
He was the fool in the great play, the jester who sees it all.
He was also the oily bohunk that Molly Ringwald's sister marries in 16 Candles. So when are we going to Quizzo together, my friend?
There you go.
Yes, Quizzo.
We've got
Wednesday at Bogart's.
Hey, if you want, I'll be there
On the east side.
All right. Well, listen, thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of The Week That Was. Thank you, Jeff Sakwa. Thank you, David Rudolph. Thank you, ML Elrick. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. And thank you, Allan Lengel, with the last word.
Drive home safely.
Take care, everybody, and have a great week.